Okay, so we're going to record this session. We're going to share this recording publicly after the event, and we'll stop the recording before we have questions. So if you want to ask anything after the recording stopped, then that won't be recorded and made public. Okay, I'll get going. So welcome to the Improving Local Authority Building Control Alpha R&D Show and Tell number 6. My name is Tom Gaylor. I am the designer working on this project, and I'm here along with my colleagues Rianne and Shanique. And Dawn is also working on the project but is unable to be with us today. So we're going to talk today about prototyping and testing. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the discussions we've had as a broader team on more adoptable services, and then we're going to have an update on data standards and what's coming next. Just to remind us of our Alpha vision. So we are here to explore, prototype and test solutions that demonstrate how building control can be improved to deliver a better user experience for customers and staff, improve the quality and usefulness of data, and to position local authorities as the service provider of choice. So first off, I'm going to look at the prototyping and testing that's been happening over the past 2 weeks. So we previously shared a prototype for the design check. We've been testing this, and that testing has indicated 2 main sort of updates or iterations that we can make. The first was allowing officers to have more flexibility around how they recorded checks. In particular, there was a sort of suggestion that rather than strictly using building regulations as a framework within which to conduct the checks, it might also be worth talking about kind of design elements. So, for example, rather than just talking about part A and checking all the things in part A, it might be that you're checking all of the aspects of the kitchen extension or the downstairs loo or etc. And that both of those approaches were kind of sort of valid, and some suited different types of work more than others. So we'll show you a little bit how we've been exploring that. And we also uncovered that previously we had the design check sort of took place, and then at the end of the design check, you sent off your requirements to the applicants. We understand that the process is a little bit more sort of iterative, and the applicants might be contacted one or a couple of times during the design check phase. So we needed to allow that sort of communication of amendments to happen more frequently and more regularly during the design check to hopefully, enable that process to be as efficient as possible and for the councils to offer the best services to the customers. So this was a quote we had from testing. So very often when I start to check, I will not actually know everything that I'm going to check straight away. You might find elements which are not obvious when you start. And so this goes further to sort of point at how officers might, or inspectors might need to go back and add different parts of their inspection as they go, because it's not always that obvious just from the description or from your first look at the plans. So I'm going to very quickly give us a demo of the iterated design check process. So previously, when we've shared this, we had the design checks. You were selecting the relevant bits of the legislation that you wanted to check, and then you were progressing that way. What we've now enabled is that there's a choice of adding those relevant regulations, but also adding design elements. So you can see here a commercial unit's been added, some residential units, some leisure space, and some groundworks have been added as different design elements that would be checked. And then further ones can be typed in and added, and then those can be removed or further added as needed through the design check. So when those are saved, whether they're the regulations or the design elements, they appear in the left-hand side, and then they open up the design check for each of these elements. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the sort of what you can see in terms of the element in the center of the screen in terms of how the checks are recorded in a second, because we've got a separate prototype to share for that. But once that's been complete, then there's or once checks have been partially complete, then there is the option to send the update to the applicant. And so this allows at any point during the design check, any requirements that have not yet been shared to be sent to the applicant. So they can be selected from this list, and then they can be sent to the applicant. And once they're sent, they go to the previously sent requirements and everything's cleared. So at any point during the design check, if you want to quickly share something with the applicant, those recorded requirements can be sent to them, and you can continue with the process, or they can be updated quickly. And then similarly, we've just made a few updates to the decision point. So when you come to sort of close off the design check, you get an overview of the requirements, what's been discharged, what's been sent but not yet discharged, and if there are any unsent ones at this point. In terms of the outcome, because we've got some not yet discharged requirements, we're unable to approve it without requirements, and the options are to approve it with requirements or reject it, and then we can add a reason. And then once we've selected that and we're going through with that, then we get this final summary before we send the decision out. So I will return to the slides. So one thing that I sort of glossed over slightly in that was this structured text editor that we've been exploring. So one of the questions we've been asking is how we know there's an opportunity for requirements to be captured as structured data. We know that that can help with maintaining this sort of thread of actions and an audit log. But we also know that creating structured data by using forms is quite clicky. It can require lots of, previously we had sort of, you had to add in a title and you had to add in a description, you had to click save, and then it got added to the list. So we were curious to look at how we might have a more natural or more familiar way of working, that of using a sort of text editor such as Word, to write your reports, but doing that in a way that created structured data. So we've been exploring this, and I'm going to quickly share a demo of that here. So this is a sort of proposal for what it might look like. You can see here that we're assessing a Part A structure, and we've got some sections there for A1, A2, and A3. So when we're going through, you can see that there are some instructions on that, and I'll just zoom in to maybe make that slightly larger. There's some instructions on the left-hand side here, which allow you to use various keys on the keyboard to do various actions. So, for example, hitting / allows us to add a new requirement. So I can put the title of requirement here. So, or, this might be steel beam spacing or something similar. Then I can write the detail of this. So the steel beams shown in, and then by using the hash key, I can search for the documents that I've been provided with this application. So I can tag the relevant documents, are not compliant with. And then I can, by using the @ key, I can select the relevant bit of legislation that I want to tag this with. And then this data is captured. So although I'm just writing as I would normally, I'm starting to capture, and you can see it's captured over here, the requirements here with the document details and the legislation details that are relevant. I can also, in this case, specify whether this is a non-compliance issue or whether it's a request for more information. And so I can tag that requirement with non-compliance or otherwise. And so in this way, we're able to allow officers to work in a familiar way by typing text into a document and be able to see that document as a single thing, but also extract that later as sort of individual requirements that we can track whether they've been sent, whether they've been responded to, and whether they've been discharged. So I will come back to the report. We've also made some changes to the application page. We've added a bit more key information to help officers understand the facts more easily, and updated the workflow to be a little bit more to be structured but flexible. So we've got a screenshot of it here, but I will just share a very quick demo of that as well. And that is here. So we've updated slightly the tasks on the side, so you can see that validation of fees are there. We've added the consultation part, start of works notice, design check, commencement notice, inspections, and completion. So this represents a sort of slight iteration of what we had before. We've got the address and various details, the map, the description. We've also added in the ability for the description to contain some special features. And also highlighting whether there's a particular need for consultations for fire safety or whether it's proximity to sewers and drains. We've added the cost of works and some details about the inspector, the level of works, and if any supervisor, if there are any. We updated the order of the duty holders so that it starts with the client, then principal designer, then contractor, sort of reflecting on kind of the order in which they might be best understood. And we've added in a section for requirements here. So you can see that these requirements can be sorted by legislation. So you can see the different requirements here under A1, the title, whether it's been sent, responded, and discharged, or it can be viewed by design element. So in this case, that's kitchen fit out, downstairs toilet, single story extension. And there's also the possibility to filter them. So if you're only interested in seeing those that are discharged or those that are not discharged, then there's the option to filter this list as well. And that can be tracked there. So from this page, you can see all of the sort of outstanding actions and also historic actions that have been taken and what's needing to be remain to be done. I'm going to return to the slides and we will continue. So just a reminder that we are always looking for people to take part in user testing, to give us feedback on this. So if you or people at your organization are interested in taking part in that, please do get in touch with us. I'm going to drop the link into the chat and we'll share it around afterwards as well. We've got sort of ongoing testing to be involved in. So if people have been involved in testing before, we'd very much welcome them come back as well as people who've not done any testing to date. I said I'd talk a little bit about more adoptable services. This is probably just going to be a little bit more of an update than anything. One of the things we've been thinking about as we sort of progress into the second half of this project is how what we might leave with, or where we might start. Hopefully if there's a next phase to this work. And one of the learnings we had from working on the BOPS project is that it's quite important if you can find an adoptable standalone service that can be adopted by councils more easily than building the whole of the building control system. So we've been discussing that with partners. And it's really key because it helps get quantitative data. We can get real users, we can measure exactly how much time's been saved and sort of demonstrate the impact in the real world. So it's really important for building that trust and building the evidence. And so some candidates we've been looking at for these sort of standalone services, and a sort of standalone service is really defined by the fact that the data that exists within it isn't particularly integrated with any other services, and therefore can sort of can be used or stand alone alongside existing back office systems. And things we've been talking about are competent person scheme notifications, initial notices, and dangerous structures. So we're doing a bit of exploration into the options there, and we'll continue to sort of keep you updated about possibilities to make improvements in those spaces. So for data standards, I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Rhiannon.
Thank you. If we can just look at the data standards slide. Super. So since we last spoke, we have run a session for partners, which was quite well attended, that Jordan facilitated. And the purpose of this was to show people how to contribute to the data standards repository, either by commenting directly on GitHub, filling out a form, or emailing or slacking me directly. I'm just popping into the chat the details of the form so that you've got it. And if you weren't on that call, please ask Jordan for the link. I'm sure he'd be happy to share. And we'd like, obviously, as many people as possible to have eyes on this and contribute to that. So also on that theme of building a wider community and getting people to comment and contribute to the data standards, I had a really productive chat with some people from NHBC and hoping to keep that dialogue open. And they've expressed a willingness to also have a look at the data standards. And also we're going to be talking to people from BSR, which will be really good. And Tom has had separate conversations with Exacom in which he also shared the repo. So we're hoping that sort of by building a broad coalition, we're going to get as many different viewpoints as possible. And I think I'll just speak a little bit about what's next, not just for data standards, but for the project as a whole. So what we're going to be doing in the upcoming sprint and beyond, we've got our March workshop next. Is it next week? Yes, next week. And Ealing are kindly hosting that. Continuing work on data standards, which I'll drop some more details about into our Slack channel. Further research and testing, that's something, of course, that goes on throughout the entirety of the project. Site inspections, prototyping, and also, although we haven't demoed it during this show and tell, in parallel with all the great work that's been done with the prototypes that Tom showed, we are also building out our coded prototype in the background, which is kind of putting substance into the designs and functionality that you've seen. So for the last couple of weeks, I've been focusing on the customer portal page, getting the backwards and forwards email journey with requirements working. And at the moment, I'm just finishing off the inspections part of the journey so that people will using a calendar integration so that people can actually see how booking and changing inspections will work. So I'll be continuing to work on that and building out the design checks and requirements part of the journey over the next couple of weeks. Tom, have I missed anything?
No, that's fantastic. Thank you. Thank you very much, man. David, do you want to ask your question after recording, or we can have it on the recording?
I don't mind.
Okay,
I've got another meeting at half past, unfortunately. It's just that site inspection thing just piqued my interest then, because one of the things that is really useful from a management perspective and from an inspector's perspective is actually being able to plot the site inspections on a map. So, because you can't just put them in a diary and go, I've got one at 1 o'clock, I'll have another one at half past, another one at 2 o'clock. They've got to be in a geographical route so that they have an efficient journey, so they'll move them around. But it's also useful to be able to see that on a map, because not everybody these days knows the area that they're inspecting in. Certainly we're finding that, and I think others would find it of use as well. And I think the planners have got an inspection app from iDocs, and it allows them to plot the route, whereas I think ours doesn't, but don't quote me on that. We can see them on a map, but we can't plot a route. And that's quite useful functionality.
Great, thank you, David. Yeah, that's something we can definitely think about and look at. And I think we are going to spend a bit of time talking about site inspections at the next workshop, so we'll make sure that we cover that. Catherine, did you want to come in or ask a question?
No, that's fine. We can discuss it at the next workshop. I was just going to jump in and discuss that thing that David's talking about, but I think that's a workshop discussion.
Perfect. Okay. Well, we'll pause the recording now, and we'll take any other questions or suggestions. And just a reminder that our next show and tell is on the 25th of March. So let me stop the recording. If I can do it. There we go.